Welcome, welcome, welcome to our first holiday edition of the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. I'm so glad to have you guys here. I am Dave Stevens, of course, one of the hosts of our amazing show, and we continue to have fun and put out great shows. And we just want to thank all of our listeners in the podcast world, all of our viewers on social media, and especially just everybody out there that has supported us and made this first year so amazing. And we've got an amazing show tonight. And I got to bring in my buddy Troy from Duluth. Troy, how is the weather up in Duluth, Minnesota tonight?
Not bad, Dave. We had some snow last couple of days, but hopefully the next couple of days is the weather kind of holds off. But it's gonna really getting holiday-ish up here.
And there's a lot to celebrate in Minnesota this year, especially with the Vikings playing so well. And let me bring in one of the Vikings' biggest fans extraordinaire. That'd be our buddy Will Stein. Will, happy holidays, brother.
Happy holidays. We're expecting about 5 inches of snow in the Twin Cities tomorrow, but other than that, Minnesota Vikings are 9-2. Life is good.
Well, let's continue to hope that they keep playing well and they get no injuries and things like that. But I got to get right to our guest tonight. I'm so excited to have this guy here. If you're a Twins fan, or since we have a little Minnesota bias in this, you probably hated seeing him every time he was on the mound. But this guy was an amazing pitcher for a big stretch in the '90s. Of course, I'm talking about Blackjack Jack McDowell. The guy wins 20 games a couple of times. He was a three-time All-Star. 127 victories. Oh, yeah, and that Cy Young in 1993. So without further ado, let me bring in Mr. Blackjack himself, Jack McDowell, as we look towards that younger you on the mound. It's so great to have you here with us tonight, Jack. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Good to be here.
As we look at Ricky Henderson pissed off at what you were throwing him, do you remember those kind of exchanges on the mound?
Yeah, and that all came, that little situation came because he walked to lead off the game and chirped out to me and did like the run towards our dugout, like almost to high five our own dugout. And then I struck him out with guys in scoring position. So we just went after each other a little bit.
I mean, it's so great to have you here so we can reminisce about those amazing days in your career. And again, I think, people take for granted what you did in that finite period of time, that the successes that you had. I mean, you were one of the most dominant pitcher in the mid '90s. I mean, do you look back at that and go, man, it doesn't seem so real all these years later?
Well, it was cool being able to, be successful in doing that, but I never got a chance to win the World Series. So that's really the one thing that I always cared about was winning, winning the World Series, because even everything that you do as a personal player, yeah, you can celebrate it, but you can always be better as an individual player. You can never just reach the best level. The only thing you can reach the best level of is when you win the World Series, because guess what? What can you do better as a team? Nothing. You reach the very top you could do. So that's bummed that I didn't get a chance to do.
Yeah, I want to talk about the 92-93 seasons. 1992, you were 20-10, 13 complete games, which now in these days is unheard of. Then you followed up, of course, you were runner-up that year in the Cy Young, and then 93, you come back 22-10, you win the Cy Young. Can you talk about those 2 years and, how your mentality you had, and did you feel like you were on fire and had this, every time you went out to the mound that you weren't going to be able to, or you were going to be able to shut everybody down?
Well, it was just the biggest thing about it. It wasn't about just purely shutting everybody down. It was about winning a game, which means as a starting pitcher back in the day, you didn't get predetermined that you're going to be out in the 5th inning like everyone these days. You pitched until the other team knocked you out of the game. And so what you try to do is, if I'm in here longer than their starting pitcher, I got a chance to win the game. And that's what you try to do, to stay in the game and continue to do well. And so that was kind of our goal going out there.
So you had the nickname Black after you have already been in the big leagues. What's the story behind that, and how did that happen?
Well, the story behind it was, Hawk Harrelson started calling me that. And his story, after all this was that he saw me mad on the mound, so he just called me Blackjack. But the whole thing about it in reality was I was the ace of the staff, the number one pitcher of the staff. So I was the ace, and my name's Jack. So an ace and Jack is what? It's Blackjack. And so that's why he started doing it.
Awesome.
And,
And
you were in Minnesota, Jack. You talked about what you were in Minnesota, and then it kind of sunk in and hit that you were Blackjack when you heard Puck in the dugout, right?
Well, it wasn't even in the dugout. I didn't know that they had nicknamed me that because, you're not watching your own games. You're out on the field while the games are being watched by other people. But we come into Minnesota and we're out doing our stretch as a team on the side, and they're hitting batting practice, and their batting practice ends, so they're going back to the dugout, and we're going out on the field. And Puck and me always used to say hey and talk. We're kind of good going back and forth. And he just goes, "Hey, Blackjack, what's going on, man?" And I go, "Hey, Puck, what's up? How you doing?" "Good. All right, cool." And I turned to Robin Ventura and I said, "He just called me Blackjack?" He said, "What is that?" And Robin said, "Oh, I think I heard somebody say that Hawk Harrelson's calling you Blackjack McDowell now." So that's kind of how the first time I ever heard that was my nickname.
It's so funny how these things start. And as you continued through the White Sox, you had a lot of great teammates, Ventura, Frank Thomas, those kind of things. I mean, do you look back and just kind of go, man, we had the formula, we had the players, we had the pitching staff, and yet it just didn't get to that point where you could win a World Series?
Well, if they would have left us all together, we would have had a good chance. You look at how we did from 88 and then keep going every year. We jumped up a little bit, jumped up a little bit, jumped up a little bit. And by the time we got, 90, 91 and 92, we were close, but we had to face, the Oakland A's, and they were super studs back then. And so they would win the division. And then finally we win the division in 93 and go to the playoffs for the first time, but we're still a pretty young team. And it was our first playoff go. And, I got beat up by Toronto. That was number one. That was an unbelievably great team. But you go back and look at 93. Yeah, I won the Cy Young, but I lost 10 games. Okay. And look what Toronto did. They beat me 3 times during the season and 2 times in the playoffs. So obviously they are on me pretty good.
Well, you still had great success. And I mean, 3 All-Star games. You didn't get the World Series, but so many accolades and so many people looking back at your career. And I know I read that you have one of the 50 best windups in the history of baseball. So we want to keep your memory alive. And in fact, tonight we're going to showcase some different sides of you that many of the fans either don't remember or didn't know about you. So stay tuned with us as we come out of break. Blackjack's going to play a little music with us. So we are listening or watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens. I'm Dave Stevens. Stay tuned.
Ho, ho, ho! Happy holidays! I'm Santa Dave from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show, and I'm getting ready to give all the good boys and girls Manscaped products, except there's one problem.
The problem is you can't keep Manscaped on the shelves in the stores. So go to manscaped.com, type in the code GSS Show, save 20%, and get the Manscaped products. And poof, overnight, we've got Manscaped products. How cool is that? That means that by popular demand, they had to fill these shelves, all of the amazing products for Manscaped. And as I said, you get 20% off using the code GSS Show. You don't have to come to the store. Go online to manscaped.com, put in the code GSS Show, and you can get all of the amazing Manscaped products.
That's right. And of course, with it being Cyber Monday, you can still log online and get some great deals all over the place, not only at manscaped.com, but if you'd like 20% off the softest, comfiest, best fitting men's clothes, Fresh Clean Threads has your back and your front and your sides with everything from tees, tanks, Henleys to polos, pullovers, and hoodies. You get designer basics without paying ridiculous designer prices. Everybody feels good, looks good, and has confidence. Go to freshcleanthreads.com. Use the special code GSS Show for 20% off your order. Your perfect fit awaits. And as I said, we've got a great show continuing. But I gotta bring in. Let's see here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Um, the heck with it. We'll pull it back later. But Jack is joining us, and Jack, before we get back to asking you some questions, tell us a little bit about how that music career got started, and tell us the song you're going to play.
Says my mic is muted.
I gotcha.
Well, my music started. I grew up loving music. I had older brothers and sisters, 7, 8, and 10 years older than me were my brothers and sisters. My sister worked in the music industry, so she would always bring home stuff and we would hear it before anyone would ever hear it because she had it to herself and all that. It was kind of really cool. And I loved lyrics. I loved listening to music. And I took guitar lessons for two years between the ages 10 and 12 years old. And then once I learned the basics of everything, I just kept playing and teaching myself. And then how you learned was you listened to music and tried to match up how you would go about doing it. And the reason I started writing songs was when I was at Stanford and I signed after my junior year and I actually was a quarter ahead at, being almost ready to get out of there. I had to come back for the first 2 off seasons to finish up my career there, but I couldn't do music. I mean, I couldn't do baseball. So, we weren't playing baseball anymore there. And so I would go to class, get out of class and just sit around and be so bored because I wasn't used to that because I was used to, okay, you get out of class and go to the field for the rest of the day or go lift weights or go do whatever. So I ended up bringing my guitar and just started writing songs during that time in 1987 and just, started writing and getting into it and then came up with a handful of songs and we did our first record down the road and done about 6 records and recently just started doing all the stuff on the computer like everyone's doing now. So I just kind of did everything by myself on the computer and did a new record recently.
Wow. So what have we got tonight? What are you going to play for us?
Well, I was going to play one of the new songs off of the new CD, but then when I saw that we're doing all the Christmas stuff too, said, well, I can do a Christmas song.
Oh, yay.
That'd be
All
cool.
Right. Well, here we go. Jack McDowell.
Do you know this one? Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Feliz Navidad. Prospero año y felicidad. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas. I wanna wish you a Merry Christmas from the bottom of my heart. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. I think that's
Very
the first
nice.
time I've ever actually heard all of those words spoken well enough to hear the enunciation. I still don't know what they mean. I think they mean Merry Christmas, but I'm not. I think that's what that song is all about, correct?
Yeah, the Feliz Navidad is the birth of Christ.
That's
As
right.
much as anything, yeah, it adds that to it.
And speaking of births, I guess, or your, I mean, we could call it afterbirth. I don't know. I got to play a song that was written about you, and we can flash you back to a memory in your career. Check out this oldie but a goodie and a very obscure one. But hey, I do my homework.
He was crowned the Yankee flipper by the foul Hall of Fame. He gave 50,000 fans a finger, but we'd like to share a little bit of the blame. It was Spike and Mike and Black Jack and me.
Not many baseball players get to live a long
5,000 fans a finger, but we'd like.
Not many guys get to live in folklore like that, to have a song about an incident that it kind of sucked, but I mean, let's just go to the point of, hey, you had a song made about that time in New York, but take us back to that New York moment for us, Jack. What you were going through, and we know what New York fans can be like, and all that pressure and tension and everything like that.
Well, it was the frustration of it was the first game that I pitched against the White Sox, who had traded me, and I didn't want to get traded. I'm like, I wanted to play with the White Sox and keep playing, but they just, took me to mess with me my whole career. Took me to the, and said, no, we're just going to get rid of you. And so they got rid of me. And then the first time I faced them, they started beating on me pretty good. And, I come out of the game and now I get beat up by the team that traded me. And my home team is booing me. And I'm going, wait a minute, everyone likes to just kick my butt. So what's going on? So it was just a frustration. I was very frustrated with the game and didn't understand, how does your home team fans boo you when what am I not trying to win a game? Am I not busting myself to try to do super well to win? Yeah, it was just a little frustration, and did that and realized, okay, that ain't going to be good. But
And then the song, I mean, did you ever think somebody would write a song? It's not a bad song. I've been humming it ever since I downloaded it. So,
oh yeah, the Baseball Project. Well, it's you go back and if you listen to the words of those songs, the words of the song were about 4 days earlier, before that event where I flipped off the crowd. Is when REM came and played, and I met all those dudes and hung out with them, and we had a good time. So they kind of made a funny story about how, maybe it was our fault that we were out drinking with him, and got him out of his good game.
Talk about the when you got to the Yankees, about the policy about no facial hair. Of course, when you were with the White Sox, everybody knew you for the goatee. So how was that kind of different, going there and having to deal with that?
Oh, it's very different. I mean, the situation was really weird to begin with anyway, because I was traded during the lockout, the strike lockout, whichever one you wanted to call it back then, in 94. And I was traded during that. And it was supposed to be illegal to do trades or signings during a lockout or any of that. So I didn't even know if that was going to be legal, that I was actually traded. So here we come, and we don't even know when the season's going to start. In February, late February comes around, and all of a sudden, boom, the season's going to start. And I'm, call and say, well, what team am I playing for? I have no idea what's even going to happen. The Yankees call me and say, okay, we need you in Florida in 2 days. So I'm like, okay, well, where am I going to live in New York when I don't have time to even go there and get a setup to live somewhere? And I had to fly to, I was in California, had to fly back to Chicago to get all my stuff, and then fly to Florida, and, went in there. And I walk in to the clubhouse the very first day, and our manager, Buck Showalter, who I really love, thought he was great. And he calls me into his office, closes the door, and he's got an electric razor and shaving there. And he goes, okay, we got to get rid of that goatee. And I was like, okay. So I'm in his office, and we shaved it off in his office. and then went back out into the clubhouse. And a lot of the guys, and the funny thing is, if you go look midway through that season, they allowed us to get it back and let the guys grow beards and stuff for a few weeks. And it was like the only time during that we were allowed. I even have a baseball card of me with the full goatee. And it was because a lot of the players that were there, I mean, Wade Boggs and Don Mattingly, come up to me and said, "Hey, you're the dude that everyone, talks about your goatee, and that's a thing for you. You should go ask Steinbrenner whether we can wear it or not." And so I was like, okay, I'll help you guys out. We'll try it. And I went and talked to George and said, "Hey, all the players are talking to me about wanting to come and see if we can't, at least wear our beards and do some things like that." And he said, "Well, maybe we can try it." And he let us do it for a little time, but then we went out to the West Coast and we lost like 5 in a row. And he said, "Okay, that's it. You can't lose games with your beards. And so you gotta shave them all off again." And that's what happened.
So
And my loss during that time, it was a crazy game. The loss that I had during those straight losses was against the Angels. I had a no-hitter going into the 8th inning, and there was a ground ball in between first and second. Mattingly runs over there, gets a forehand going full speed and stops and turns and throws to me covering first. And it was a short hop, and I'm on a full sprint, and I happened to pick it and touch first at the same time. And I forget who it was that hit it, but he dove head first into first and they called him safe. But if you go back and look at the video, if we had, someone to be able to look at that again and check it out, might have been an out. And the fact that I had a no-hitter, usually the umpires call people out on a close play, but they didn't on that, and he was safe. And then I ended up giving up a double and a single, and they scored 2 runs, and we lost.
So we talked about Kirby Puckett earlier in the show and how he grew up in Chicago. I understood that he reached out briefly to you about potentially joining the White Sox and
Yeah,
what the team
absolutely.
was like. And
Yeah,
also another big, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah, he called me personally during his free agent year, and it took a while for the Twins to actually re-sign him. And he called me, asked me about the team, asked me if I liked, everybody, and if we had a really cool clubhouse, and if he thought we were going to be a solid winning team. And I'm like, "Yeah, Puck." He said, "Come on, get over here. How would we not want Kirby Puckett to come play for us?" And I guess the White Sox never gave him an offer, and the Twins got him back.
And you had another redhead dial you up and inquire maybe a little bit about what that team was like as well. True?
Yes, Mark McGuire. He
That
called
would
me
have been
during his
amazing.
free agency. Oh, heck
Tell us about
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And
What would that
he
have been like to add him to that team? I mean, what do you think the holdup was?
it would have been great in, playing first base and Frank Thomas playing. They could have gone back and forth from DH and first base. But I think Frank really didn't want to do that because he wanted to stay playing first base, because I remember him saying that I don't think I can win another MVP by just being a DH. And he knew McGuire was a gold glove first baseman. He was pretty solid there. And so that was just part of what happened. And so Mark didn't sign there either.
Boy, that would have been crazy to see Puck go back to Chicago where he grew up. But you've done a lot for the city of Chicago. I can't believe how much you used to do. I mean, again, when I do my research and look for things, you actually made an appearance on a show called, I think it was called Teenagers, and to me it looked like it was Saved by the Bell. But there you were with all these high school kids working on their show, performing in their studio, and I don't think these kids knew who you were, knew what to ask you, but you were such a trooper, and that's kind of like why you're on this show as well. But, why is Chicago so special? Why did you do such silly things as we look at this really, really embarrassing video?
No, it was just it's a very cool area and good people in a really cool city. It's a really well-placed city. I like it.
Well, it's awesome that you don't pick and choose the high echelon TV shows. In fact, you even come on Geary, Stein, and Stevens. So we appreciate you being a part of our show tonight. And it's too bad that Manscaped wasn't around back in your era, because you could have had an endorsement deal with Manscaped. But make sure you stay with us. We're going to take one more break. Don't go away. We've got Manscaped coming up, and more of Roger McDowell playing the guitar. So stay with us.
Merry Christmas, Pete.
Merry Christmas, Mom.
I think there's one more present for you.
It's a Manscaped package with lotions and sprays and trimmers. And where's the lawnmower? Hey, there's a note. Dear Pete, may you have a Merry Christmas and a smooth New Year. Oh! Shop now at manscaped.com.
Hi again, everybody. Dave Stevens from the Geary, Stein, and Stevens Show. And I'm on the road a lot covering.
Sorry about that, folks. More glitches tonight as we take a look at some of the fun parts of Blackjack's career. This is a tete-a-tete that he had with Mark Whitten on the mound. You threw a little inside, and for some reason he wanted to come at you. I don't know why. To this day, the pitchers still aren't allowed to throw inside. But how did you get that reputation of being a tough guy and like an intimidator and those kind of things, Jack?
Well, I don't know. They always said that too, that, oh yeah, you threw at people so much. I'm like, no, I did not. I was not that kind of old school guy that they hit a home run off me and then I want to drill them the next time. No, I want to get them out the next time. That's what you want to do. And that thing that Whitten charged him out was the only time I was ever charged in the mound. Was they had actually thrown at our guys. You know how the schedules go. Sometime, we're in Toronto and then we're back in Chicago. When we were in Toronto, Jimmy Key had thrown at Ozzie Guillen up in his head, had hit Joey Cora in his head, had thrown at Robin Ventura up at his head and hit his wrist, almost broke his wrist. And it's like, then we get to Chicago and they do the same thing. They're throwing at our guys again. And none of our pitchers were getting back on it. So I said, all right, I'm going to have to let them know, stop this or it's going to happen. And that wasn't throwing at Whitten. If you look at that, I threw behind him almost a foot. And that was basically my thing to say, okay, you want to keep this going? Said, no. He said, no. And he charged him out. I'm like, dude, I didn't even hit you. I'm thinking, I didn't drill you and you're going to charge the mound? My goodness. And Mark Whitten is like the last guy you wanted to charge the mound after you.
Yeah, does it bother you that you may have had more success for the guys that were doing PEDs, steroids, HGH? And what do you think? Should those guys be in the Hall of Fame?
Well, why not? It's, how much does it change? You get a little stronger and a little better. I know, and that it was supposedly illegal not to do it once they learned guys were doing it and they knocked it off. But I always talk to people about that, like the Barry Bonds not being put in because of that. The thing is he wasn't a full career steroid guy. He only did it after the Sosa and McGuire big home run outings. And he goes, okay, watch this. You think he did a hold my beer. Basically, he said, oh, you think that was good? Hold my beer. Watch this. And he did it for that year that he just went crazy and crushed it. And I always talk about this too. Me and Barry, we face each other in college, okay? And not any time during the regular season because he was National League, but when he was with the Pirates, we'd do spring training and all this. So faced him, 5-6 times. He hit a home run off of me every single game I pitched against him in college and in pro ball. So do I think that the steroids helped him? No, the guy was a stud.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Will, you got another question for our good friend Jack.
So, what was the coolest musical experience of your career, both as an artist and as a singer?
Oh, I mean, getting the chance to play with the Smithereens, which was our very first concert appearance ever. You know, they had seen us. Mike Maceros, who was the bass player, had seen me play on the Firestone show. After that, after the Witten thing, they we went out to California and we were on the Roy Firestone show and we got to play one of our songs, you know, acoustically on there. And he really liked the song. He said, "Wow, this is so cool." And he was a sports fan. And so they called us and said, "Hey, do you want to be our opening band?" And I was like, "Wow, for the Smithereens? Absolutely." And we got to do that and do that tour with them. And that was very cool. And that was, yeah, you saw the View. That was us. We were the View at that point. And then after
How was
that,
Whoopi Goldberg? Was she a nice person to work with?
yeah, yeah, exactly. They stole that name from us. There wasn't the View TV show until after that.
And you know, you've been, you know, we've seen you on stage, and I know you're still performing and writing and things like that. But you know, you again were associated with a crazy story back in the day of you were hanging out with Eddie Vedder, just minding your own business. You guys were out, and this is we like to give athletes that have been on that have controversial stories that last word. And there's been so many. You know, we've heard Marty Cordova tell things, Ryan Rickman tell us stories that weren't true that we found out was all made up. So give us the inside scoop on this whole thing with you and Eddie Vedder.
Oh, well, me and Eddie, we met. He knew my first wife, and that's how we first met. When I met my first wife and we ended up getting divorced. We had 3 children and ended up getting divorced, and now I'm remarried and have 3 more children, doing it again. And we first met, my wife and his wife were roommates in college and stuff. And so they knew each other. And so it's funny because when I first met her and she's like, "Oh, you're a musician too. That's really cool. I have a friend who's a musician. His name's Eddie." But this is before Pearl Jam even started. And so I met Ed before, the Pearl Jam stuff even started. They had just started, recording the record and finishing that first record. So it was kind of cool.
And so what happened that night in that bar?
Oh, the one I went, I went down south to Louisville to watch a show. And after the show, the opening band that was from Chicago also, and all of them, we all went to this one bar, and there was this guy that kept going up to Eddie and getting in his face about something, like, "Oh, you're this, you're that, you're," just like so mad at him. I had no idea why or what was going on. I wasn't even around it, but the guy just kept coming after him. And he's like, "Wait, what's the matter? Why are you saying this to me? What's going on? What's making you mad about me? What did I do? Do you just hate my music or what's that?" And the guy just kept coming at him, and then go away. And then like 15 minutes later, come back at him and do it again. So we got everybody in there and said, "All right, let's get out of here. Let's go to another place." So we go outside to leave, and this guy comes out and goes and swings to try to hit Eddie. And so we all got into a little fight. And one of the guys who knew him, who was working in that bar, came out and snuck up behind me and knocked me out from behind. So that's all that happened. And that guy, the guy that hit me, he actually he got in trouble for doing that. He tried to sue, Eddie Vedder over doing all that stuff. And they went to court and they walked into court and the police came, arrested him and took him away because he had already been arrested for different stuff and had, not shown up for things he needed to show up for as a criminal. So he got busted.
And could you imagine if that had taken place in this day and age? There would have been cell phone video. It would have been on social media everywhere. The league would have gotten involved, all this stuff, contract negotiations, everything. It would have, it's just crazy to think, back then and flash forward some time now. But we are in the current times, and I know you're continuing to make music. So as we try to wrap up things, do you got one more song you could do for us?
Okay, yeah, I'll do this. I've never played it before, other than recorded it. Yeah, and recorded it on there. So,
All
trying to
right. Once
think how
again, Blackjack
how does this?
McDowell.
I need the rest of my band to start it. Come on, are
A
you going to
one,
start
a
it?
two, a 1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
3.
Are you gonna let it bounce away? Or are you gonna let it stay? Do you wanna waste a single day? Or are we gonna have some play? Like Mr. Jackson said, I'm speaking to the man in the mirror. And inside my head, my thoughts couldn't be any clearer. I ain't the very best friend, but I better get a bit nearer. This ain't no pretend. A prima donna, I'm gonna make the play, and it ain't gonna bounce away. I hope you wanna let me be like me. Just take a look at what I see. Like Mr. Jackson said, I'm speaking to the man in the mirror. And inside my head, the thoughts couldn't be any clearer. I ain't the very best friend, but I better get a bit nearer. This ain't no pretend. Do you wanna make a change today? So are we gonna have some play? So are we gonna do just what we may and live our lives the way we say? This ain't no pretend. This ain't no pretend. This ain't no pretend. This ain't no pretend. So the name of that song is This Ain't No Pretend.
You're getting a sitting ovation from me on my ass on the floor here, but
Very nice.
that was awesome to hear. Now, where can people get your music if they want to find it? We don't really have record stores anymore, so
No, I've got them
where
all
can you get it?
here. I've got them all right here. Here's the new one. One and I created and kind of built myself. It's called Replant Our Lives. I have this hat that says the same thing. And it's about me. Replant our lives, because I don't know whether I want to stick with baseball or go back to music. So I might have to replant my life, and that's what we're doing. And I had to rename my band, and I'm calling it Black Jackie. And
that's
because
pretty
the
good.
stick figure for years, another band stole our name, and they've made
yeah.
10. They've made
It's
like 10
separated too.
records.
Yeah, they were stick figure, and you guys were one word. So
Yeah, and it had to all change, and so I was like, okay, well, the next time I'm not
But
sure
where
what
can we
I'll
get it?
rename it.
What's the best website, or how can they find it online?
Well, I don't have any website to sell the stuff on, so I just usually connect with people on the Facebook stuff, or they can go straight to my email if they want, which is stickjack111. That's lowercase stickjack111 at yahoo.com. And if you want the CDs, we can talk about it, and I can show you what we got, and there you go. Or
And
if you want me to
six
sign any of the
listeners,
baseball cards of me.
for our 6 listeners that are now going to steal your identity by getting your email like that. So thank you very much, Jack. But, it was so great having you be a part of our show and just reminiscing a little bit. Troy, Will, say goodbye.
Yeah, appreciate you take the time out of your busy night to join us here, Jack.
It was a pleasure to meet you, absolutely, and hopefully I can listen to the song in the car one time.
Heck yeah, that's some good stuff. Is it grunge? Like, what are we calling this stuff?
Well, it's more like old school rock. Although,
Yeah.
I did do a lot of keyboard stuff, especially like for this song. You want to hear how the beginning is on my phone?
Sure, another exclusive.
Okay, so here's how this song actually starts out. The one that I just played.
Awesome.
Holy cow.
So
That's
there
some
you
good
go.
stuff, man. And we
So
were
there,
lucky to have Jack
that's
McDowell.
first one. Yeah, I had to find one that I could play acoustic and kind of keep the same way. So you can kind of keep it the same way, but the other stuff behind it was pretty cool.
Blackjack Unplugged. That's right. Well, thanks for being a part of us, Jack. And as we play out, I'm going to take us back to a little bit of The View back in the day as we end our show tonight, a very special show where Jack McDowell was a part of our show. Again, you guys are always a part of our show. Thank you for being a part, everything that we do, being the success that we have. And again, we appreciate everybody listening and watching and viewing. So please continue to follow us on all social media platforms. And again, thank you to our sponsors, of course. Manscaped, you use that show code to get 20% off at manscaped.com. That's the same for fresh, clean threads. Type in that GSS show code for 20% off of those fresh, clean t-shirts. And of course, you got to stay healthy with AG1 Athletic Greens 1. And if you type in that code with GSS, you get free vitamin D for life. So I'm Dave Stevens. For my friends and everybody, you've been watching Geary, Stein, and Stevens.